Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores. Sorry I'm so late with this, but I wanted to give y'all all of the updates that came from the last day, the final day, day 3 of mandatory minicamps that went down Thursday, June 12th. Now, I do plan on doing videos breaking down like the top winners and losers, stock up, stock down, and things like that. That's not what this video is on. This one's purely just covering what happened in the third day. But granted, I want to go ahead and give y'all the heads up. The third day was way lighter, way less going on, so we don't have as much to talk about. Like, we don't have any defensive line, linebacker, nor safety updates, no special teams updates as well. I have a bunch of other position groups, but those, I don't have anything for you. So just to warn you, this video will be shorter. And again, be on the lookout because I will be doing like reviews of the entire mandatory minicamp and things like that. But we're here to talk about a Noah Brown potential injury update. We have big positive Samuel Cosmi news. We have a overall outlook of the wide receiver position. Of course, we have practice clips of Jaden Daniels throwing the ball and things like that. So we're going to dive into all of that and more. But before we do, of course, I have a trivia question for you. The question is, what Pro Football Hall of Fame end from Notre Dame caught 111 passes for Washington and Boston from 1936 to 1941, then returned in 45 to help the team win the NFL Eastern Division after 3 years in the U.S. Navy? Salute, man. I will give you the answer to that trivia question at the end of this video. If you know that off the top of your head, elite ball knower. But before we get into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion video just like this one. Stay tuned, follow the content. Again, I'm going to do a bunch of breakdowns over what happened mandatory minicamp. And I also want to warn y'all, this is it until late July. But trust me, I'm going to do my best to try to at least come out with at least one video a day. I have a lot of video ideas. That's not the problem. It's just finding the time. So stay tuned. Your one-stop shop for everything Commanders. Let's go and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. Again, just to let you know, and I don't even think we have a definitive date yet, but just know training camp does not start until late July. Like, there's nothing going on. This is like technically the one real break the NFL players get from their season, because really until now, it's always here and there. They still got to do a couple of things. They could be working out with the teammates. This is the only time where players are like, have the time to like travel with their families and things like that. So this is it. After they come back July 20th, they are purely grinding football until at least through February. So this is the time that, like, literally, just to warn you, nothing football related going on. Like, more than likely, even Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, all of those guys are gonna mail it in, go on vacation, travel, all of that type of stuff, spend time with their families. So I don't even think it's likely that we'll end up signing even like a random veteran free agent or anything until late July. Just wanted to give you that heads up. So again, just want to let you know, I'm trying to make sure that I come out with at least one video a day, and maybe if I can squeeze in like a live stream or two during this period. I also want to do film sessions for the rookie class as well that are going to be ad-free and exclusive to channel members only, all of that type of stuff. So stay tuned for that. But just to warn you, this is about to be a very slow period for Commanders news. So I'm going to be, I already have a bunch of windows everywhere. This screen, windows and ideas. But you know, we got to get creative during this time. There's not going to be any concrete news coming out. Some rumors. I'm going to do some stat dives. I'm going to do some roster predictions, all types of stuff. So stay tuned for all of that. But now let's dive into what's going on. Well, what happened in practice on Thursday, the third and final day of mandatory minicamp. Well, first of all, we have a lot of ownership. We had a lot of ownership at practice, man. We had Josh Harris, Mitchell Rails, Mark Ein, and even Bob Myers was there. And also, they announced that they ended up having a barbecue for the players and their families after practice. That is amazing, man. That's not something typical. That's not something that's even technically necessary. But this Commanders culture is so beautiful, man. From the ownership to the front office to the coaching staff to the players. The fact that they even wanted to do that. Now, granted, I know a lot of players, NFL players, typically want them to just go ahead and cancel that third day, but at least they kept it really light, which is, again, why we don't have as much to talk about in this video. And then they also threw a barbecue afterwards for the players and their families. So I thought that was really cool. Remember, the second mandatory minicamp practice. They had like 150 high school coaches come and like watch the whole process and things like that to gain that invaluable experience. And then day 3, they had a barbecue for everybody. This is amazing. This team, ridiculous. But also, again, mind you, Bob Myers was there. Remember, this is a guy that went from the NBA Finals Game 3 in Indianapolis back on June 11th to the Commanders mandatory minicamp on June 12th. That's great. That guy is dedicated. He was just over there in Indianapolis. He made sure he flew up to see the last Commanders practice until late July. And I guess he's still somewhat involved with this organization in some way. I don't think he necessarily has a big voice in what we do football-wise. But remember, at the behind-the-scenes vlog of our draft and our war room and things like that, Bob Myers was there. You know, a lot of people thought that he was just here to help hire and find a general manager like an Adam Peters, which we ended up doing. But he's been around even after that. So Bob Myers, hey, sticking around for a reason. And hey, the guy that built that Warriors dynasty from the ground up, his talent evaluation skills or whatever it takes to win, I like him just being around, even if he may not necessarily know football. Remember, Ben Johnson made fun of us for being basketball guys. Well, we beat them in the playoffs, went all the way to the NFC Championship, and we're keeping these basketball guys around, and I like it. Now, also moving on to the injuries. Dan Quinn said, quote, "I have no update on Noah. He's getting an MRI today," unquote. And Quinn would not specify even the body part. Like, they're keeping this as ominous as possible. We don't know anything. Maybe this whole thing was nothing. Maybe it was just severely painful, but no real damage, and he's good to go. That's a glass half full, best case scenario type of thing. I have no information on that. No inside sources. I'm just throwing that out there as maybe that's what happened. Or it could be like a season-ending injury. We have Noah Brown for the entire season. Who knows? But Dan Quinn is not giving us anything. And how convenient do they schedule the MRI after the final mandatory minicamp practice, the final Commanders practice for the next month and a half? Like, how convenient is that, Dan Quinn? Thanks a lot, Commanders organization, but I'm pretty sure that was deliberate. Because if they really, really had to and wanted to, they could have gotten the MRI done Wednesday night so that they could have told us what happened on the final day of mandatory minicamps Thursday morning. But hey, they didn't want us to know that. I'm hoping it's nothing crazy. But Noah Brown, remember, left practice Wednesday with an undisclosed injury and did not return for the rest of the day. He also didn't participate in Thursday's final mandatory minicamp practice, which we're reviewing today. And when asked about his status, Quinn didn't give an update other than to say that Brown was supposed to get an MRI. That's all we got. We don't even know what the injury is. Shouts out to Al Galdi too. He said more than 48 hours since Noah Brown was carted off the field. Zero word on his injury. Dan Quinn on Thursday wouldn't even say what body part was getting an MRI. And then Adam Peters, who learned under Bill Belichick, has Washington on lock in terms of leaks like never before. I completely agree. Nothing leaks from this organization. We didn't know about the Laramie Tunsil trade until it happened. The Deebo Samuel trade, a lot of us were saying it makes sense, let's do it, but I had no confidence that it would get done, and there were no clues or rumors that it may happen, and then suddenly it happened. We don't know who we're going to draft. Like, I dare anybody to predict and put money on the guy that we're going to draft. I had Josh Connolly as like one of our 5 most likely players, but I wouldn't have put any amount of money down on the fact that we would have gotten it. First of all, I just didn't think he would make it to 29, and all the Commanders didn't also. That's how great of a talent he is. But, I mean, I just love, thank you, Al Galdi, for bringing up that point. And I've mentioned this in several videos and live streams for the past year and a half since they've been here, or around a year since we basically hired Adam Peters, that I mean, literally nothing leaks out. You never know what we're actually doing until we do it. So, I mean, we can listen to all these sources that we want to and all of that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, if Adam Peters didn't say it directly, if Dan Quinn didn't say it, I really don't necessarily believe it. A lot of the times, well, really every time, when we're diving into random rumors and reports that are coming out about the Commanders, we may be interested in this guy, we're potentially looking to sign this guy, trade for this guy, draft this guy. I purely just do video breakdowns on that, on why or why we shouldn't do it. I'm not here to talk about whether the rumor is true or not, if the report is trustworthy or not. I'm not in the business of that at all. I don't have any more sources than y'all do watching this video. I just like to do those video breakdowns on the, does this make sense? Why we should, why we shouldn't go get this guy, or whatever the rumor is, or whatever, does it make sense for us? So my point is, man, there's really, until Adam Peters or Dan Quinn say it or do it, really just rule of thumb, don't believe nothing coming out. They don't play, man. We don't know. We literally don't even know what part of the body Noah Brown got hurt. That is insane. And then shouts out to Commanders wide receivers Michael Gallup and Jalen Lane, because they initially worked off to the side, but then they went inside the facility in the third final day of mandatory mini camps on Thursday. So that's something to watch. I know Michael Gallup is missed. I don't think he participated in any of the mandatory mini camp because of an injury. And then Jalen Lane must be a fairly recent one. So those are all of the bad news. And then even on top of that, tight end John Bates, after a certain point in the practice, headed inside as well. He looked fine. Seawall Sports said that he looked good from her opinion of seeing him like moving and walking and stuff, like he's straight. But he did have to end practice early. So, you know, maybe guys getting a little banged up. We'll see what happens over the break to see if they come back ready and fully healthy for training camp. Hopefully guys like Michael Gallup, Jalen Lane, John Bates, everybody's good to go by the time we get, and even Javon Kinlaw, everybody's 100% by training camp. Y'all got a month and a half. And then again, we don't know what's going on with Noah Brown. But I also, of course, have a big time positive injury update for Samuel Cosmi. Now for the one good news. And this all started, my first time was when John Com did an entire podcast and video breaking down the final day. And now, granted, I didn't get the chance to like actually go listen to it and everything, but he brought up about the fact that like Noah Brown was out. Zach Ertz, he talked about him. He talked about the family barbecue. He talked about Frankie Louvu working on his pass rush on Wednesday with Ryan Kerrigan. He also gave a Samuel Cosmi update. And then from the little bit that I did hear about the Samuel Cosmi update, it sounds very positive. And then Mark Tyler even retweeted it and said, John echoes the same thing I heard about a few weeks ago about Samuel Cosmi's rehab. It's going well, with a bunch of exclamation points. So I don't want to go as far as to say that Samuel Cosmi's ahead of schedule, but at the very least, he seems to be on schedule and everything is going in a very positive way. And then Seawall Sports even pointed out the fact that in that final practice on Thursday, that Samuel Cosmi was getting some work in outside. I mean, of course, he was probably isolated by himself, not doing stuff with the team. But the fact that he's on his legs and moving, I didn't think he would be to that point already. Who knows, man? He may surprise us and be ready to go by week 1. Great thing is, though, we don't need to rush him. We do not need to rush the guy. He can take his time. Please do. We have so much depth on this offensive line. We have like 3 or 4 guys that should be starters on other teams' offensive lines as backups. So Samuel Cosmi, do not potentially make a bad situation worse by trying to rush back. Please take your time, because you're a Pro Bowler and we need you for the long run. We don't need you necessarily in September. We need you December, January, February, we make it to the Super Bowl. So please just stay healthy, do what you got to do. Do not rush back. And then also moving on, shouts out to Zach Selby. Moving on to the coaching part of this video. This is the one coaching point that I have before we move on finally to the players, starting with the quarterbacks, of course. Zach Selby said, prior to the players breaking for the end of practice, linebackers coach Ken Norton Jr. and personnel analyst Wes Welker, shouts out to them, gave them some advice for how to approach the dead period. Shouts out to the coaches for that. Norton told the players to always be prepared for their moment because they never know when it's going to happen. And Welker talked about, quote, winning time moments, unquote, saying why it is so important to train at this time of year. He told them to always be ready for those moments because they can make significant differences in games. Basically advice like, hey, stay in shape. I know you're about to go on vacation and things like that, but don't go crazy on eating and gaining weight. Don't stay focused. If you're a wide receiver and stuff like that, keep working on your route running any free time you get. If you're still learning the playbook as a rookie, no matter the position, keep going crazy with the playbook. Keep working on things that we've taught y'all for these last few weeks, especially these last 3 days in mandatory minicamp. Like, make sure y'all are still constantly rehearsing that and working on that type of stuff, even if you're by yourself. Or, hey, I mean, technically we have time off, but if some of y'all want to get together and work together, that's cool too. That's not illegal. But basically, don't forget everything you learned and don't throw it away in this break. Make sure you come back fully ready to go training camp, because you definitely want to start off on a good start, because this is a very competitive roster, up and down, top to bottom. This roster, especially even just depth and positional battle wise, way better than what it was this time last year. So you got to come ready for training camp this time around. You're not just going to be able to sneak onto this roster. We're going to end up, like, when we cut down to 53 players, the final 53-man roster, we're going to be cutting good players that other teams are going to sign. This is a pretty good roster. Is it necessarily as dominant as the Eagles? Not necessarily yet, but it's a really good roster, way better than what it was last year. Again, I keep emphasizing the fact that especially if you take away quarterbacks from every NFL team, but even if you include Jaden Daniels, honestly, we were probably the worst roster on paper, just roster-wise, talent-wise, out of every team that made the playoffs. On both the NFC side and the AFC, all playoff teams, we were probably the worst team on paper. We made it that far because of elite coaching, elite effort, and Jaden Daniels. Plain and simple. Now, you take that same coaching effort in Jaden Daniels, and now you actually give this team a good roster with really good talent in every position group. It's going to be dangerous for people this next year. I'm warning you right now. But speaking of Jaden Daniels, now moving on to the quarterbacks. I mean, here's just a quick 33 seconds of Jaden Daniels just doing some stuff. Again, this is a very light practice, so there's not like a bunch of like crazy highlights to really go over. You just have Jaden Daniels, just seeing his footwork and things like that. You're seeing him working on sidearm throws. I think that's pretty interesting. You know, Chris Sims, he did his quarterback rankings recently, like a few days ago, and he had Jaden Daniels 5th. Only behind, of course, the top guys like Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. And then he even admitted that he was being nitpicky. He's trying to like trade, like, why is Jaden Daniels 5th and not number 1? Even though some people, for some crazy reason, think Jaden Daniels should be lower than 5th, I think he's at least 5th. But either way, he was trying to be like as nitpicky as possible. He even acknowledged that. He's a great quarterback. If I had to say something, he said he wanted more velocity on balls. I forgot the other, get bigger. He said just, of course, being skinny, but I'm not too worried about that. And then the third and final thing was more off-platform throws. And it looks like those are things that he's working on in this video. So Jaden Daniels, he probably, of course he knew that before Chris Sims said it, but that just shows that Chris Sims really watches film and realized like Jaden Daniels already has everything else, but these are these few ways that he could improve, and Jaden Daniels is already on it. So they're on the same page. Jaden Daniels already working on the footwork, sidearm throws, off-platform throws. He's going to be unstoppable. He has that Pat Mahomes sidearm to his game. He's always had the talent. But once he starts to really incorporate that in games, and when he's running, he's running the throw more often, he's going to be, already, again, the 5th best quarterback in the NFL. He's only going to get better and better. That's the insane part. And then you also have this video right here. This is going to be a fun season, man. You have this video uploaded by the Washington Commanders themselves. Of course, you have Jaden Daniels and Sam Hartman just having fun and just chilling, you know what I'm saying? I believe this is during like the early stretching period. Jaden Daniels pointed out the camera, so Sam Hartman and Jaden Daniels made sure they said hi. This is just a really fun group. That's the only reason I'm showing this clip right here. And then Sam Hartman's even trolling Jaden Daniels. I'm not exactly sure what he said right there, but he's definitely trolling him. But either way, I just love the fact that they troll each other, and the brotherly bond on this team is absolutely insane. And then also, before we leave the quarterback section, I do want to note that neither Jaden Daniels nor Marcus Mariota participated in 11-on-11 periods, leaving Sam Hartman and Josh Johnson to lead the offense during the periods, even out there with like some of the top guys on the roster. Hartman had his moments, like when he tossed the touchdown to Luke McCaffrey, so shouts out to Luke McCaffrey. I mean, he put together a really good mandatory minicamp. All 3 days I heard of or even saw touchdowns from him. So he's really stepping up. If Noah Brown's hurt long term, Luke McCaffrey may be the guy that ends up stepping up in his place, even though I do believe Jalen Lane's going to ball out as well, and Chris Moore's been making a lot of plays too. But also, Sam Hartman threw an interception to Carlin Vigors near the goal line. So there was some ups, there was some downs with Sam Hartman, which is typical of a 3rd, 4th string quarterback wherever you have him ranked. This is a guy that you don't necessarily hope has to play a game for you in the regular season, or especially not the postseason ever, really. But he'll grow. He's still going into his sophomore year. He doesn't get the reps that Jaden Daniels does with the first team. He doesn't get as many reps with the starters, against the starters as often. He's not playing games on Sundays, so of course he's not developing as rapidly as Jaden Daniels is in that way as well. So just be patient with Sam Hartman. I think he'll develop into a really good backup quarterback eventually, but I'm really happy that we have Marcus Mariota as our 2nd stringer right now. Now moving on to the running backs. Dan Quinn was asked about Chris Rodriguez's offseason and talked about him slimming down. He said that was one of the things we discussed for him throughout the offseason, and he's really applied himself to make sure he can be his absolute best. You're right. He made some really meaningful runs, and so if he could get himself into the best shape he's ever been, that would give him the best chance. It's a very competitive running back room, especially since Ja'Cory Crosky married in it now. But looking at the work Chris has done over the last 3 months or so, it's been significant. So that's interesting. This is my first time ever heard Chris Rodriguez mentioned at all in mandatory minicamps, and it's good to hear Dan Dan Quinn himself acknowledge him, especially for a lot of y'all that are rooting for Chris Rodriguez to actually be one of the running backs that makes the final 53-man roster, not to be a practice squad guy. It's great to hear that Dan Quinn basically gave the guy a plan. They challenged him, get in the best shape you've ever been in your life, lose weight, and it sounds like he's answering to that. So he's going to impress those guys. They're going to keep an eye on him. And man, as a player, having eyes on you is very important. Having the trust of the coaching staff, very important. And I think that gives them a head start over a lot of these other guys that are on the bubble of making the roster. And so I'm excited for what the future of Chris Rodriguez potentially holds, because I mean, a less weight, skinnier potentially, but still bulky, strong, can run you over Chris Rodriguez does sound diddly. You know, if you could take that bowling ball mentality but add some speed to it, all right, man, we may be working with something. Now moving on to the wide receiver room. Now, of course, you got to remember, as you can see on the clip right now, this is Deebo Samuel making a play. And, of course, it went viral a couple of days ago about Deebo Samuel looking slow in that one clip that was uploaded. And people were really running with it. And shouts out to everybody that came to his defense. Even George Kittle, his ex-teammate from the 49ers, came to his defense and was like, bro, this is like mandatory mini camps versus air. Like, why would he be running full speed? So the Washington Commanders, they knew what they were doing. They made sure the very next day in practice, they uploaded a clip of him looking faster just to kind of settle some of the noise. And I'm just happy to see that, because he did look really quick in that. But I already told y'all when that clip first came out, and I even showed y'all the clip before it went super viral, that like of course he doesn't look that fast. You know what I'm saying? He's chilling. He's motioning out of the backfield, so he's probably taking his time just in case, like, you know, to sell that maybe he may get a toss behind the line of scrimmage and then he takes off. But even then, it's against air with no defenders, so it's like, go ahead, just no contact allowed. Nobody's allowed to jam him, tackle him, really cover him that hard, get physical with them. They're just chilling, man. They're just going through the motions, kind of learning the plays and the playbook and stuff like that. And when you see a bunch of NFL players coming out and defending them and saying fans are just overreacting and looking into something that's not there, then you should know fans are tripping. This is the armchair GM situation right here, man. And then also right here, you have this clip of Jaden Daniels throwing a nice pass to Deebo Samuel for what looks like a touchdown in the end zone. Yep, looks like a touchdown to me. So shouts out to that connection between Jaden Daniels and Deebo Samuel. I love the fact that their chemistry is just constantly improving. We need that. Again, I've talked about this recently. Terry McLaurin not being there, of course you prefer him there, but him not being there, the glass half full, the silver lining is that Jaden Daniels is getting more reps and targets towards other guys. So rookie Jalen Lane, Luke McCaffrey coming back to his second year making plays, trying to get as many reps and targets as he possibly can. And Deebo Samuel, who you just traded for, we need to go ahead and expedite that chemistry as quickly as we need to get that going. So the more times that Jaden Daniels can throw the ball to Deebo Samuel, the quicker he can learn his timing, his body language about when he's going to break out of routes and things like that. And I mean, that deep ball right there, or whatever that throw was, that to the corner of the end zone for that touchdown, I feel like a couple of weeks ago they don't complete that. So I just love seeing the evidence that chemistry is really improving. That has me very, very excited. And Dan Quinn even addressed this whole Deebo Samuel stuff, man. And on which new offseason acquisition has impressed him the most, his answer was Deebo Samuel. He said, quote, yeah, a number of them, honestly. But wide receiver Deebo Samuel, I think, has been very impressive to me for maybe a different reason than I thought. He was such a difficult person to tackle that you spent so much time, quote, how are you going to tackle this person, unquote. And somewhere along the way, I've forgotten until here how fast he is. And so sometimes when you're playing against the receiver, you say, man, you better either get him at the line or you better get on top of him. With him, so many times there was so many run after the catch plays that we had a tackling plan, and how would you go about it? And then I can remember one time he just ran by everybody down the field on a deep ball, and I was like, yeah, I forgot about that. And then he laughed. So that, it doesn't surprise me. But it was maybe I missed talking about it to that space because it was easily reminded he's one of the fastest players on the team. Unquote. This is coming from Dan Quinn himself. Who are you going to believe, Dan Quinn or these random people on Twitter talking about Deebo Samuel looks slow? As a matter of fact, how about this stat? Shouts out to the 33rd team because they believe in facts, not fiction and rumors as well. Because as that whole thing about Deebo Samuel looking slow went viral, they replied with the clip that I just showed you earlier where he looked faster, and also added this stat. Every wide receiver with 40 plus receptions last season to average 8 plus yards after the catch per reception, Deebo Samuel End of list. No other receiver in the entire NFL averaged 8+ yards per after the catch per reception on 40+ receptions last year. Nobody was better after the catch in the NFL than Deebo Samuel. He's still got it. People keep talking about like he's not his 2021 self. I don't see it, man. I mean, I know he had the concentration drops and, you know, he had the overweight issues sometimes, but I'm telling you right now, he's going to ball out for us. He's extremely motivated. He's very much so in shape. He's fast. I'm seeing him doing receiver stuff from some of the clips we got earlier in mandatory minicamp, like the first day, where he's reaching out for the ball and high pointing it. And I don't necessarily remember him doing that for the 49ers. Even his 2021 season, when he was impossible to tackle, he wasn't just like a pure receiver catching the ball, high pointing it, and then toe tapping in bounds with both feet. He's starting to do stuff like that. So maybe he may not necessarily be as great of a running back type of guy, the Deebo Samuel that people want, the Deebo, but I'm pretty sure he still has a lot of that. But the most important part is that he's becoming a more nuanced receiver, and he's really tapping into his speed bag, man. I mean, I gave y'all the stat just a couple of days ago about last year, how he reached over 20 miles per hour, and at a certain point in the season, like in October, it was him and only like 2 or 3 other people that had reached 20+ miles per hour like 3+ times or something like that. Like, he was arguably one of the fastest players in the NFL last year at a certain point as well. And then also, we actually do have the Luke McCaffrey touchdown on tape, and that's a really good ball right there, and that's great coverage by Cypress right there. He's right there, stride for stride, right there in there. Shouts out to Sam Hartman for that throw, man. I mean, that's a confident throw to squeeze it in the coverage like that. That's probably similar to like sides of the same coin, 2 different sides of the same coin, because the interception he probably had was probably squeezing it into a bad situation, a tight window like that, and it just wasn't as accurate of a pass or thrown quickly enough. That time, perfect, gets it right to Luke McCaffrey for the touchdown. But you know, I mean, there's going to be ups and downs when you take risks. That's what taking risks do. But either way, great highlight. Great throw by Sam Hartman. But most importantly, I wanted to show y'all that because Luke McCaffrey just keeps stacking up the touchdowns in mandatory minicamp. I think he had at least one a day every day in mandatory minicamp. Then you even have Ryan Fowler. He said multiple notes on each from highly impressive early offseason work for each pass catcher. Excited to see the potential roles for each come time for camp. He isolated Broncos wide receiver Pat Bryant, Titans wide receiver Alec Ayamaner, Chargers tight end Oronde Gadsden II, Bills wide receiver Jalen Virgil, and Commanders wide receiver Luke McCaffrey as one of the top. Those are like the 5 wide receivers. Watch out. If you don't know about them, watch out, because they killed it in their offseason workouts, especially mandatory minicamp. So Luke McCaffrey is in that type of company where there's some real buzz growing for him, even outside of the Commanders, reporters, and fan base. It's insane. And then also, lastly, before we go, Chris Moore apparently had another really good day. Be on the watch out for Chris Moore, man. I'm warning you right now, this guy, especially if Noah Brown's out long term, he makes the most sense to get one of those last spots because he's been in the NFL for like 10+ years. He knows exactly what you need to do, or at the very least, he's going to be practice squad at worst, because that veteran experience with him knowing exactly what to do, how to do it, all of the receiver nuance, he's been there, done that, infinite experience and things like that. He's the perfect guy to at least practice against. Like, as much as we love the talents of these younger receivers on the team, even like Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey, who's been improving and stuff like that, if I'm Trey Amos, I prefer to battle against Chris Moore every day, because that's more like what you're going to see on Sundays than to go against even Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey, as talented they are, they're still a little bit more raw. Trey Amos, you prefer to go against the more technically refined guy, the more experienced, the more nuanced, that knows the ins and outs, that knows the secrets to the game. So Chris Moore is going to make a lot of plays this offseason. I'm not saying he's going to come in here and be wide receiver 3 or 2 or even 4 necessarily. But I think he has a chance to make this roster. But I think he's a guy you have to bring back on the practice squad. He's the perfect guy to practice against throughout the offseason. Trey Amos getting meaningful snaps against him throughout the season, I'm telling you, is only going to make him better. But going forward, again, it was a light day for the players. And whoever participated in 7-on-7s and 11-on-11 drills, again, didn't include Jaden Daniels nor Marcus Mariota. But there was some who still managed to stand out. Shouts out to Zach Selby for this one. Chris Moore had 3 catches on the day, one of which was brought in for a touchdown. Moore is one of the older players in the Commanders receiver room and faces a difficult task in earning a roster spot. Still, he can consistently produce and had some highlight plays during minicamp, so perhaps he can impress the coaches during camp enough to make this final 53-man roster. We'll see. Telling you right now, He's not going anywhere. At worst, practice squad. At worst. He's just too valuable and experienced. At the very least, is a guy to practice against for your defensive backs, to just let him go somewhere else to another roster. And again, if he keeps making plays like this guy has had, him and Luke McCaffrey probably had the most impressive mandatory minicamps, especially out of the receivers outside of Deebo Samuel. So be on the lookout, man. Watch out. And then also, tight end wise, I don't really have anything for you, but now offensive line wise, just a quick update on Samuel Cosmi again, but just to dive deeper into it. Dan Quinn said that Cosmi has hidden all of the benchmarks, but still doesn't have a clear answer on when he will come back. And I believe that. I think that's 100% transparency right there, where Samuel Cosmi probably a little ahead of schedule, at the very least on schedule, doing very well. But of course, it's hard to predict when he'll be ready. He could be ahead of schedule all if he wants, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be ready for week 1, but we'll see. And he even said, quote, "Yeah, I know that Sam Cosmi, he's hitting all of the benchmarks, but when does that get there? I don't know. We're not going to miss one step with him. Thank you. Do not rush this. What I do know is that I love the competition that we have on the offensive line right now at guards and centers, and who's ever playing that right tackle, and how we're going to work through the guys. So I'll take some work as we're going through into training camp, but those are the types of challenges you want as a coach. It's not who in the hell is going to play over here. It's more like this is going to be an absolute battle to see where it goes. So that's most of the times been my experience, where the competition of one another really pushes us forward, and the whole group gets better because of it," unquote. I love that quote. I completely agree. And I love the fact that we have the team that embodies that. We have so much competition that even with Samuel Cosmi hurt, it's a positional battle to see who's going to win the starting right guard spot. It's not obvious, oh, it's got to be this guy, because that's the only guy that's even halfway decent. No, we have a bunch of guys where it's like, I don't know. As of today, it's probably between Nick Allegretti and Andrew Wiley, maybe. But don't sleep on Nate Herbig. Do not sleep on Trent Scott, who stepped in very well for Samuel Cosmi when he got hurt for the Detroit Lions. Trent Scott was the one that replaced him, and you almost forgot that Samuel Cosmi was hurt because he did such a great job in his place. And Nate Herbig was supposed to be the starting center for the Steelers last year. And he's like way back on our roster right now. That's crazy. So, hey, man, again, mind you, Nate Herbig, supposed to be the starting center for the Steelers, got hurt very early in the season, had to miss the entire season purely because of injury. But he's a really good player that should be starting. And right now, we're not even sure if he's second string. I mean, out of all of the names that I just gave you, potentially competing for the starting right guard spot until Samuel Cosmi comes back healthy, he's probably third or fourth on the list, which is insane because he's, again, supposed to be starting somewhere. And then also moving on, left tackle Laramie Tunsil has not spent much time with the rest of the Washington's offensive line, but it's enough to know that his teammates are dogs. That's what he said about the Commanders' offensive line. He said, quote, "You know who I'm really impressed with, though? JC, rookie Josh Connolly. JC is going to be a dog." And I'm not just saying that just to blow smoke up his A word, but JC is going to be a dog, and I can't wait to see it, unquote. And that is high praise from a perennial Pro Bowl left tackle. I'm telling you right now, Josh Connolly didn't lock up and completely abuse Abdul Carter when they played against each other for no reason. But here's Laramie Tunsil talking about him right here.
You know who I'm really impressed with, though? JC. JC is going to be a dog. And I'm not just saying that just to blow smoke up his language, but JC's gonna be a dog. I can't wait to see it.
Why do you say that?
Just the way he's moved, the way he's been, athletic, smart, very intelligent. I think he got all the tools to be a damn good player in this league.
And then also Laramie Tunsil talked about his early impressions of the coaching staff, and hey, shouts out to him, man. He seems really excited. He seems happy to be traded here and all of that type of stuff. Here's a quick 18-second clip of that.
They always have high energy. I'm like, where y'all get this energy from? Is it coffee, whatever y'all have? Like, just please let me know where y'all get this energy from. It's always high energy. It's always positive. I'm optimistic. You know, it's never negative. They always trying to coach. They always trying to I think it's personal before it's business. You know what I mean? That's huge.
And of course, I know a lot of y'all are seeing that whole Linnell Willingham versus Laramie Tunsil situation. I may dive into that in another video to kind of break down what happened, how it started, and what this back and forth even means and things like that. We're not going to address that right now. We're going to keep it pushing. Now moving on to the defensive side of the ball. Again, I don't have defensive line nor a linebacker, so we're going to go straight to corner. And there's no real serious update, but we have a few interesting things from Trey Amos. One interesting, one entertaining. So first of all, the NFL Network with Adam Schefter, Bucky Brooks, all of those guys, they had an entire segment talking about Trey Amos. And even the tweet promoting it said, the Commanders need their secondary to be better, and rookie Trey Amos has shown early signs that he could be a part of the solution. from the insiders. So they seem really excited. So Trey Amos is having so great of a mandatory minicamp that even the national media is taking notice. Like, they have a whole segment dedicated to just Trey Amos specifically. I haven't even seen them talk about Josh Connolly, like, national media wise yet. You have Luke McCaffrey, Ryan Fowler talking about him. You have NFL Network talking about Trey Amos. So that's really good. Can't wait to get the training camp to see where they are in development. Remember, Marshawn Lattimore said something to the extent of that this guy's technique is way further ahead than it should be as a rookie coming out of college. It is absolutely insane. He even said something to the extent of, don't be surprised by mid-season, he's playing like nearly like a Pro Bowl level. It may not necessarily be week one, but by some point during his rookie season, somewhere in the middle, Marshawn Lattimore's predicting that this guy will be one of them ones at corner. And speaking of being one of those ones, I just love how Louisiana Trey Amos is, man. Y'all know me, man. I love anybody that's absolutely 100% of who they are and take it everywhere with them, man. So he had the whole NFL team really hyped, man. I mean, he was doing his whole Louisiana dances and stuff. They even had the Louisiana music playing on Mississippi. Is that Mississippi song, that whole thing that went viral a while ago? You know, it's just that whole region right there, really the Delta. And then even after practice, he had this with Major Tutty right here. I just love how Louisiana he is, man. He talks like you can hear it in the accent, and he just has a big cornerback one type of aesthetic to him and energy. Like, even with the sleeves on, the visor and everything, the way he carries himself. So I love that pick, man. He was a first round talent, and he also comes in with the right personality. It's amazing. Now moving on, we nothing for safety. Nothing for special teams. And then I have a few other people's observations at the end of the day 3 of mandatory minicamp practice. You have Dula Vision on Twitter. Shouts out to him, Dula_Vision. He said his final observations from minicamp, especially day 3. He said the team took the offseason seriously. Many guys look like they are in better shape. That's great to hear. He said Carlin Vickers right now is my vote out of all of the undrafted free agents that will make the final 53-man roster. That's very interesting. I probably should have included that in the cornerback part of this. Remember, he had that interception against Sam Hartman. Watch out. And even before mandatory minicamp started, a lot of people were looking at Carlin Vickers like he's probably one of my 3 or 5 favorite undrafted free agents out of this undrafted free agent class of 2025. And then he also lastly said, I'm more likely to bet on Jaden being better this year than on a sophomore slump. And again, this is an observation from what he's seen from mandatory minicamp. It sounds like Jaden Daniels is only better. So yeah, the league could do everything they try to do to catch up, but as they catch up to 2024 Jaden Daniels, which I already think is impossible in itself, he's already a new and improved, even way better 2025 Jaden Daniels, which is scary. Then you also have Dean Jones of Rigo's Rag. He did an article on the 5 commanders who turned heads with superstar swagger on day 3 of mandatory minicamp. Of course, Deebo Samuel headlined this. He does an entire article breaking down every selection, so I'm not going to read what he said in between them. I'm just giving you the 5 names. Please go check out that article. He said Chris Moore, secondly. Then he also went and said Carlin Vickers. So that's another person talking about Carlin. You have multiple people talking about Chris Moore and multiple people talking about Carlin Vickers. Then you have a Chris Rodriguez mentioned as well. And then again, Luke McCaffrey, who had arguably one of the best mandatory minicamps of any player on the entire team. Again, you'll definitely hear his name when I do my winners and losers stock up, stock down for mandatory minicamp. I'll probably do that later on tonight or tomorrow. Just stay tuned for that. But yeah, man, those are the names that impressed Dean Jones of Rigo's Rag. And before we get up out of here, Dan Quinn had a lot of interesting things to talk about, and maybe we'll dive into some more of those. Again, from here on out, we have nothing going on till late July, so I may try to, we'll maybe double back on this, circle back to it, and dive into some of the things that he said from his last mandatory minicamp press conference, because he had a lot of really interesting things to dive into. I'm just going to wait to talk about those things in separate videos later. But Dan Quinn said that he had a meeting with each player to check on where they're at heading into the dead period. All 91 players. Wow. He said a lot of them had clear plans about what they wanted to do to get ready for training camp. So not even talking about vacation. They're talking about, oh, I got to do this and that. I got to eat this, work out this, do this to make sure when training camp comes around, I'm ready. I love to hear that from the players, and I love to hear that a head coach is doing that. That's, again, not something that's necessarily required or necessary, but Dan Quinn goes out of his way to do it, man. And then also on Thursday, while talking to the press at the conclusion of the Commanders mandatory minicamp that ended June 12th, Quinn was asked about what he would do until training camp began. He said, quote, I need to recharge too. Quinn responded with no hesitation. He said, quote, as coaches, our times together are pretty intense, unquote. He even continued it by saying, quote, the offseason is a really busy time for coaches from the teaching standpoint, so we pushed ourselves to see if we could elevate to help the players elevate. I think it is wrong to ask the players to get better and we coaches stay the same. We would shortchange them, unquote. I love that mentality. That is an insane mentality that you would just think and hope that every coaching staff has, but I love the fact that he said that we're pushing these players to get better and improve from 2024 to 2025. Why would we not do that as coaches? Of course, naturally, you're thinking like, what could a coach do to get that much better compared to a player? But there's always things that they could do. And apparently, they put so much effort and time and energy into getting better to match the player's projection of getting better in development that now he's exhausted and he can't wait for this break until late July because he needs to recharge. So these coaches put in work. I mean, again, mind you, he said that he interviewed every single player on this team, so it probably is time for him to just take a break, man. And he said, quote, there is a time and place for everything, unquote. And in the case of an NFL coach, a time to work really hard and a time to get away, recharge, spend time with the most important people in your life, and we'll reconvene late July training camp, and we're going to hit the ground running. Let's go win us a Super Bowl, man. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you about everything discussed video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. First of all, if you made it this far in the video, really appreciate you, salute you for that. But also on top of that, the answer to the trivia question is Wayne Milner. If you knew that without having to Google it or me telling you, that is ridiculously elite ball knowledge. That's a 5 out of 5. I don't know how you knew that. I did not know that if I didn't have the answer right here. So shouts out to y'all. Make sure you leave a like on the way out. And of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in the video. And again, most importantly, stay tuned. This is a very dead period for the Commanders, but that does not mean it's going to be a dead period for StreetScores. So I'm going to have y'all covered. Again, I have enough ideas to get a video out for y'all every single day until we get to training camp. But at the same time, just super busy. A lot of stuff going on. I'm not even going to be home for a portion of it. So just stay tuned. I'm going to try my best to get at least one video a day. Some days, maybe I'll get more than one video out there. I'm going to try to squeeze in maybe a live stream or two as well, just to kind of preview what y'all feel like as far as training camp battles, roster predictions, depth chart, all that type of stuff. So stay tuned, man. I got y'all covered with everything, even though the Commanders are going on break, StreetScores is not. So stay tuned. Without further ado, let's go ahead. I'm going ahead and get up out of here. Make sure y'all leave a like on the way out. I'm out, man. Maybe I need to recharge too. I'm fumbling all over my words, man.